42, this was, he said to my mother, take the baby and come with me. She said, no, 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 you go to the children. So he left by the door of the garage and went to see the woman who was working. He said, take care of me because the Nazis are there. So she helped him to make false paper. My name was Lefkowitz, but 2 days after, my father arrived and put us in a corner and shouted at us, said, your name is not Lefkowitz anymore. You're not Jewish. Your name is Leroy. I said, what, Papa? What? I am Jewish. My name, no. You are, from now on, you are Leroy. You're not Jewish. You are, what is your name, Leroy? Okay. So he took us, it was end of September 42, near there was a river there called Lescaut, which was passing, and there was a barge full of coal. The north of France is very known for the mines of coal. So there was a little window. He was with my father and a sister of his and my brother younger. My hand took my brother, got into that coal, and my father said, get in, and I shouted, I said, no, I'm afraid, it's dark, it's melt, it's cold, I don't want to go. So he pushed me. See, if you're not going there, we're going to be killed because all the soldiers with a gun are going to kill us. He pushed it there, and we were, I don't know how many days, 3-4 days in that coal, without food, a bottle of water, and I remember a packet of biscuits. I can't remember anymore how many days, 3 days, and we crossed from the occupied France to the south, to the free zone. We arrived there, and there was no food. We used to get up during the night and eat leaves and eat roots. And I began to be very thin and very full of furuncles. And we arrived, we took a train, and in the train, suddenly the Gestapo arrived, 2 people, and they said, papieren, papieren. So my father looked at us and did not to say a word. He showed them the false paper, and which was Leroy, and the Gestapo looked at the paper and gave them back to us. So I felt, it's, again, if I would have taken the paper, I wouldn't be here today. The second time, it would be a third, fourth time. So we arrived in Lyon, and after a few days there, a man called Nicolas arrived, and my father said, you are going with him. So we went with him, and we don't ask questions anymore. We went with him. We took a train from Lyon to a town called Chambéry to a little town a beautiful little town called L'Épin-le-Lac. And from there was Nicolas and my aunt and my brother and me. We walked 3 kilometers up on the mountain, a long road, and we arrived to a little path, to a barn, and to a little house. There were a couple there smiling, and they said, come sit down. You are with me. You stay with us now. Come sit down. And they were very nice and very smiling. We were very tired. We went upstairs, and we fell asleep. And the next day, we arrived at the window, and here was a paradise. The mountain and the sun and the chickens and the dog and the cow, and it was like the arch, Noah's Ark in the Bible. It was a paradise, and we were different children. We were their children. They didn't have any children. We were their children, and we stayed with them. And she took us to the nuns, and I went to school with the nuns. In the 3 kilometers from the house, my brother went to the priest, and I didn't know anything about. Of course, I missed my mother. I was going to church, and there was a beautiful virgin which I was praying, said, please give me back my mother, give me back my mother. The statue is still there. And these people didn't have any children, and they became our parents. No mother, no father, everybody had disappeared. But for me, there was no Holocaust, no Shoah. We became different children. And these people, we were their children, and they were so nice. And I went to school, and I became a Catholic. But every night when we were praying, They used to say to us, don't forget you are Jewish. Don't forget you are Jewish. But there was no water. We never washed. We just in a Sunday morning put in a bath to be clean to go to. Life was very nice, and the Shoah did not exist. I didn't know it was a beautiful. I used to look after the cows. I had a dog, and I was very happy there. For me, the Shoah started in 45, after the war. When my father used to appear from time to time, but he never told us where he was because he didn't want, well, if we would be arrested and taken and tortured, he didn't want to. We never knew where he was. He appeared from time to time, but this Monsieur and Madame Guichet were our parents. And I discovered many things after. In 45, my father came. We wanted his children back. If he would not have come, today I would be married there making cheese in the house. He would eat my cheese. but he came, and then I became very desperate and very happy because he had no wife. He had lost his wife, his child, and he wanted us to become more Catholic than the Pope. He wanted us to become more French than the French. So he found us. I became in a boarding school, a very good education without any religion, completely laic, completely. And I studied very hard. I studied English and Latin and German, and then I was very, very, very miserable there. The There I didn't have a home. I didn't have a house. I didn't have. It's only on Sunday I went back to my father who had remarried, and I wanted to commit suicide. Then I was very, very unhappy, all until age 18. 18, but I never heard about Israel. I never heard any Jewish education, nothing. So when I started studying design, I went to Paris. I became a window dresser in the biggest shop in Paris, Le Bon Marché. And I knew nothing about Israel. One day, my brother who studied medicine came, and there was a trip made to Israel with a Jewish student of France. We came, it was a week on the boat, and I had studied English, but I spoke French. French was my language. So we arrived in Israel, and we were sent to a kibbutz called Mishmar HaNegev. And when I saw all these people with blonde and blue eyes, I thought, oh my God, they were all Jews. I didn't believe it. But we were in the kibbutz, and then and when the boat left back, it was 3 weeks, we were taken to the north and to the Negev and to the Galil and discovering that beautiful country was Israel. When the boat left, I felt like caught something which tied me to this country. And then I came back, and my father, I wanted to leave. My father didn't want. He wanted me to marry a Jewish boy and stay in France and take out his shop, and I didn't want. So I left France in 64 without any money, just money enough to pay an ulpan. When you study Hebrew, no friends, no language, nothing. And arrived in Israel, and I took a taxi from Haifa straight to the ulpan, and arrived in the ulpan. I studied Hebrew, but I shared a room with an American girl and a South African girl, so my English became better than my Hebrew. And then after that, I wanted to work. I met an Italian sculptor who introduced me to all the painters and all the bohemian people of Tel Aviv. And I discovered Tel Aviv. I was very happy. And I started working for the famous Bathsheba de Rothschild, the woman who created the Bathsheba ballet. And I met Martha Graham, and I met everybody. And one day, I must tell you the story. One day, I was told that there was a customer there speaking French and wanted to speak French to me. So I arrived, and here was Marc Chagall. And Marc Chagall, I said, Monsieur Chagall. He said to me, you are French? What are you doing here? You don't know. So I was 27. He was 78. He had come to Israel because the Knesset was opening to see his carpets in the Knesset. And he said to me, you're French, what are you doing in Israel? Well, I said, you have a family? I said, I have no family in France. My mother was saying, said, where? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know where. I said, I have no family. I never met my grandparents. All my family were in Poland, and everybody disappeared. I never knew anybody. All my great grandparents were Polish. I never knew I was born in France. And I had a passport with a visa. I had come to Israel with a tourist visa. I was not sure. I wanted to try. I was not sure I was going to stay there. I didn't know. So and I said, and you, Mr. Chagall, where were you during the war? You were in New York, weren't you? He said, yes. I said, your father, your Bella, your wife died in New York. He said, yes. And we started talking, Chagall and me, like two old friends. And at one point, he said to me, you've got a boyfriend? You've got a friend? I just said, well, I met someone, but I'm not sure. He said, it's a man, the journalist who interviewed you last night at the radio. And the last night at the radio, I heard, this is David Eppel, the voice of Israel. I'm with Mr. Chagall. And he asked a question to Chagall in English, and Chagall answered in Hebrew. And Chagall said to me, he is very nice. Chagall gave me his blessing. So, and we continued talking. And at one point, Chagall said to me, he kissed me and he took my hand into his hand. He looked at me. He had wonderful blue eyes. And he said, Mademoiselle, je vous souhaite beaucoup de chance de la vie. I wish you a lot of luck in life. And luck I had, because I married this wonderful man. And we have two beautiful children, Michal and Yaron. And I have 6 grandchildren, which of course are very talented, are most gifted. My son has 3 boys. My son was an officer in the army. 2 of his sons were combat officer, medic, and the 3rd one is in the army, also combat officer. So I'm a very proud grandmother and very proud of a country which is called Israel. What makes me sick today is to see how the world is becoming anti-Semite, to see what happened in the capital 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago. How France is becoming anti-Semite again, how people are again shouting "Sale Juif" in the streets, how people is divided. I think if Ben Gurion would be alive today, Ben Gurion would be, because Ben Gurion, when in 48, when the state of Israel was declared, he did the Declaration of Independence where everybody would be equal, no religion, no division, Jewish. Everybody would be equal, and I think Ben Gurion would not want a state like it. Even the state of Israel, we have so many divisions. But I'm here to say that as I was a child, but to say that that first of all, I'm very proud to live in Israel. Israel is a wonderful country. And I think whenever there is a disaster in the world, Israel is always here, earthquake. Israel is always here to send people to help. I think everybody is, it's only that we are only a startup nation. We become the startup nation of vaccination now. People are copying us in vaccination. Everybody will be vaccinated here. And I'm very proud of this country. But I wanted to show you the picture of my mother and
let me hold it for you.
My mother and my.
It's this one.
Okay. My mother and my brother. My mother was 38, and my brother was 2 years old when they were taken. Now, what I have discovered, I told you about Israel, but what I have discovered recently, I
don't know if you can see it better now.
Let me see.
Yeah, okay.
For many years, I did not want to hear the word Auschwitz. Auschwitz would make me shiver. And my husband was haunted by the Shoah. He did so much research. He wrote so much. And because he wrote so many articles, a lot of people, even the history of Sir Martin Gilgood, which was an historian of church, he wrote, mentioned me in his book, The Rightous of the Shoah. So many people have written me, and I'm quite known now. But I didn't want. I wanted to tell my story as a happy child in that village, which is called Dula, which is about. It is today about like it was. It hasn't changed very much, and I have been there many times. And 2, 3 years ago, I always go there. I always go and put flowers on their grave. This is me and Monsieur Guichard. I don't know if you can see. This is in 82, when I declared them just among the nation in 79 in Yad Vashem. Now, of course, Yad Vashem does research, and somebody came here, and to tell me they have been accepted as just among the nation. And it is by Serge Kausfeld that I heard that my mother and my brother went to Auschwitz, but I didn't know details. I didn't want to hear about it. I took a course in Yad Vashem, how to tell a story. Now, when I went to that course with 2 psychologists, I was the youngest one. All the other people were in the camps. I was not in the camps. I didn't have a number on my arm, and I was not. I was telling my story as a little paysan who was going to church and looking at the cows. The Holocaust started for me after the war. Now, what I want to pass on, I gave many lectures in Hebrew. I did a lecture in Hebrew to a class who won the first class of all the schools of Israel. And what I see when the children in schools hear so many terrible stories, when they love my stories, and they even the children did a last in the village did a project for Betty was okay. I will tell you how I met 2 years ago. So I didn't want to hear about Auschwitz. 2 years ago, I came home and there was a Facebook, and a man called Fred said, "You Betty," in French, you must be in touch with me. You must call me. So this man, Frédéric Pélisson, has made so many researches, so many researches, so much, and he found things that I did not know. For instance, I know today where my father was from 43 to 45. My father didn't tell me, but today, because of him, I know where he was. And he now, in October, last October, he sent me an email. He did some research because my mother and my brother went from Valenciennes. They went to take a train to a place called Malines in Belgium, where all the Jews are called Malines. And she stayed there in a camp for 3 days. Here's a picture of the camp. I don't know if you can see, which I got also from. She was there. They were there for 3 days in this camp. I heard this from Frédéric, and then from Malines, I know now they were taken to Auschwitz the 11th of September 1942. I only know that now. 2 months ago. I did not know 2 months ago. When I heard that, we were closed in the second lockup. We could not go out. And when I became sick, I could not sleep. I took pills and whiskey. I couldn't sleep when I heard that. But I phoned my son and I said, Yaron, I have to speak to you. I heard news. I have to speak. He said, but you cannot go out. I said, I have to speak to you. So I said, if the police arrest you, I said, they can put me in jail. I don't care. So we were not supposed to get out of the house. I went out, and I arrived there, and I said to them what I heard, how my mother the 11th of September 42. And then it's what I know. And then I came home and I invited this lovely Steve Linder, who is here next to me, who is a very talented journalist who used to work with my husband. And I didn't expect him to write an article about me. I invited him for dinner. When I told him the story, he began to have tears in his eyes, and he began to some writing, and he published an article. Who is now And now another woman, French, heard about the story, and she interviewed me for 3 hours for an article. There's an association in Israel called Alumim, which is the Association of Jewish Children hidden in France during the Shoah. And this article is going to appear in a month. So things are happening now with me, which I did not know. It's just incredible. And I, as I said, I was invited to Auschwitz twice. The first time by Yad Vashem, who wanted me to go with a group of soldiers, of officers, and I said no. The second time was last year, when the president of Israel, Mr. Rivlin, went, and Steve went with him. Steve said to me, "If you want, I will invite you to go with Mr. Rivlin to Auschwitz." I said, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to go." And suddenly, after what happened now, I became so strong because I felt how my mother was 38. She left Poland, and what she went through, what she must have thought of us. I became so strong. I think my personality has changed completely. I have decided that I phoned my son and I said, "Yaron, I have decided I'm going to Auschwitz. I'm inviting you to Auschwitz. I'm inviting you. We are going to go in business class, and we are going to go to eat in the most expensive restaurant in Krakow." And what I want to do, it's in March. It's the anniversary of the death of my husband, who was buried in Mount of Olives. I want to take the tradition for Jewish people is to put stones on graves. I want to go to I hope we'll be able to. I want to go to the Mount of Olives. I want to take stones from the grave, around the grave of my husband. I want to take the stones with me and put them in Auschwitz, near the crematorium. And I don't know if it has been done before, but in Auschwitz, I am not a tourist. I want to go to Auschwitz without a guide, just walk on the ground where they are under still the ashes of 6 million who perished there. And I want to go and I want to come back. I've become suddenly so strong because of the story which I heard recently. And this is what I want to go. And I want to tell you that I want to finish my story, tell you I am shocked what's happening in the world. I think everybody should try to do something. And I'm very proud to be living in this country, Israel, which I think we have 12 Nobel Prize. We're a startup country. We are the example for vaccination in the world today. We have the most wonderful army in the world. We have fantastic young people. And I hope that on the Seder table, on the Haggadah, we will be able to say, politically, we are not, I don't want to hurt the Israeli ambassador, but politically, we are not doing so well now because we are going to have election again. So on the Seder table with Haggadah, we will say, for election, free lockdown, 2 vaccine, and if you believe in one God in heaven. That's it. This is my message. That's it. But my story is very different from all the story because I was during the war a very happy little girl. I was very unhappy from 45 until the 3 years of the Shoah were actually the most happiest year in my life until I met my husband. But from 45 to when I came to Israel, I was miserable. I once followed a woman in the street thinking it was my mother. I missed my mother. And today, when I think that Poland is full of the graves of my ancestors, my great-grandparents, my grandparents, everybody was killed there, everybody. So this is what I have to say. So my story is I always see the glass half full. So I'm a very optimist, but the word is really, we have, if everybody acts, the word should be different. The word should be we can make it different. It's everybody, we don't have to make differences of races of and it's what is happening in the world. It's we have, it's a thing that everybody knows that we have to act differently. We have to 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 love our neighbors and to make the most of it. But I would not, I've been going to France every year, and I see how France is changing, how the Islamist is gaining, and there are so many mistakes being made. And I don't feel I think for Jews, the only place to live
Well,
in the world
Betty,
is Israel. That's it.
thank you very much for the beautiful insight into your life and family story regarding the Holocaust. We in Ghana, we are very excited and grateful to host you. In fact, privileged to have an experience of you. If not for COVID, we would have loved to host you here. We certainly do hope that things will change and we'll have you in Ghana. And so at this juncture, I'd like to invite the Commissioner for Human Rights and Administrative Justice, Mr. Joseph Whittle, and Mr. Charles Abani, the United Nations Resident Coordinator, to just have a little conversation with, given what Betty has shared with us and also what we in Ghana here can learn, and as we fight against the issue of discrimination, anti-Semitism, and racism. So Betty, you will still stay on with us, and then hopefully we'll have some few questions from our audience or comments from our audience, and you respond to it as well. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Good evening again, and it's a great privilege. And I have the privilege of the floor, so I want to thank you again for sharing your experience with us. And it's really powerful experience when stories are told in this way. And for me, particularly, I was thinking as a young child, and Ambassador Shani, when you spoke with your mother or your grandmother too, that children and women often are the biggest victims of this, and we say not enough about that. But I was also moved by your resilience and your human capacity to move on and to take things forward. And yet also reminded, because of today, of the need never to forget, because it's so easy to forget and brush these things aside, and society becomes bad. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I have with me this evening Joe Whittle. Joseph Whittle is the Commissioner for the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice here in Ghana. He's a lawyer by training from the University of Ghana, but also a democracy, governance, and human rights expert, following, I think, his distinguished career, but also his training in Cape Coast, Cape Coast, yes. I think his singular most distinguished honor in a year and a day where lots of people have been talking about long serving is that he's the longest serving representative within the Ghana Human Rights Commission, having started in 1993 and still they're now rising to the very top. So please, let's give him a round of applause for staying power and welcome him to this discussion. Indeed, the whole of the United Nations rose after the ashes of the atrocities that we saw in the Second World War, and peace and human rights are central to that particular process. And Ghana itself here has also taken this extremely important. So perhaps, Joseph, before I get to some questions, Commissioner, please talk to us about your perspectives of what this means and the global perspective on human rights and the need to eschew all forms of discrimination, and your thoughts for us today.
Thank you, Ambassador. Right. So as I listen to the Israeli ambassador to Ghana and the German ambassador to Ghana share their thoughts, and with your good self, and finally with Betty Eppel, certain parallels were running through my mind in terms of the experience of the Jewish people arising out of this Holocaust and the parallels that we can share as African people, people with a Black background. One, I realized that the biggest gift that the Jewish story gives to us in terms of the Holocaust is that rising out of this egregious human rights violation is, as you're aware, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which the UN, in terms of the General Assembly of the United Nations, being shocked with the sheer enormity of the inhumanity, decided to set a standard of achievement for all nations. That is fundamental. Now, I also realized in my thoughts, why wait till that time when racism, the slave trade, just commemorated about 400 years of the slave trade, which depopulated Africa in even bigger numbers, but the conscience of the world was not shocked. That was a parallel I took from. So what happened to the Jewish people became a rallying cry for all of us. And that is a major takeaway, and I'm grateful that that has happened. But in recent times, as all of you had mentioned, there is the return to the old days. The far right, persons with extreme views, hatred against, again, the same people, the Jews, the Blacks. So that is a canvas that was painted by you, and I think these are the broad strokes from which we can have the discussion.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I think this whole experience helps us to really reflect on our own societies here. Africa is full of some of these conflicts, and we haven't learned from this nasty experience. Indeed, Ambassador Shani described it as incomprehensible, and I think that's such a powerful term because it makes you wonder why. Why and how would anybody do this? Ghana itself, and we were very keen to begin to localize this conversation, Ghana almost feels like an oasis in a region that is increasingly fragmented and facing political conflict, but also conflicts that impact human life. What can we learn from the Holocaust? How can we imbue into the systems here in Ghana sufficient learning that means that we don't forget? What do we need to do in curriculum terms, in terms of bringing up next generation to ensure that those lessons are learned and that the peace that we see in Ghana today can expand back into the region and connect back to what the German ambassador described as shared humanity together?
Thank you, Your Excellency. As I reflect upon the discussions today, what comes to my mind is the speech of the freshly elected President of America, who said, and I'm paraphrasing him, that to heal, you must remember. Whatever has happened to any people, if you are not in a position to remember, you may lapse into the situation of I never knew. And that brings in Betty Eppel. Betty's story is that of a young, lucky Jewish lady who managed, through happenstance, to dodge almost everything that happened to the 6 million people. And so she did not even know that there was an Israeli state at a certain stage. If we are to learn lessons, generally speaking, from the African context, we must remember that the only way that a people remember its past that is not the best and to move forward is to continue to imbue the values of intolerance that we have gone through in the past through our ancestors and all those people who died, and through the current struggle of the Black race, starting from apartheid through to what is happening currently in the world. Now, within the Ghanaian context, it is not enough for us to sit here and make it look as if the Holocaust, egregious that though it is, slave trade, egregious that it is, we still have within ourselves certain discriminatory practices, call them traditional and cultural, that we can begin to improve upon if we are going to be realistic about what we say we are against in terms of the Holocaust and in terms of racism in general. Some of them include, quickly, our traditional attitude towards women and the girl child. Very discriminatory practices which are justified on the basis of certain outmoded customs. We need to confront that. We need to confront our attitude towards the poor and the disabled. Disability is not inability. As a people, what we do towards disabled persons is something we should begin using these examples as a basis to realize that when you point a finger, know that 4 are pointing at yourself. We should begin to address that. People living with HIV and all minorities, including sexual orientation, among others. These are matters that we should begin to look at because they are discriminatory and they are also human rights violations which take away from the spirit of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When I also reflect on your comments, Betty, I think of altered lives. I think of disrupted lives and changed trajectories. And where you are today and what you have become today bore no resemblance because of a discrimination that had no basis in it. Increasingly today, not just globally, of course, but also on this continent, we see a move towards accentuating difference rather than commonality, to focus on the things that separate us and differentiate us. And in the context of increasing contestations over resources, we will see that this will be on the rise. The ambassador for Israel actually charged Ghana to perhaps join the Holocaust Alliance, to become a space that begins to join us, not to say this happened to somebody else, it's none of our business, we have our own problems, not saying we don't, but how do we create this global solidarity? And what role can Ghana, as it marches forward and consolidates democracy and becomes this envy even on the continent, begin to play to make memories around the Holocaust part of its own global concerns as well? And even the idea of formally recognizing this day within Ghana itself. Your thoughts, and I don't want to put you on the spot.
You're right. Ghana's foreign policy is very clear on these issues, and its commitment to international human rights promotion and protection are well spelled out in the conventions that Ghana is a signatory to. If you are a signatory to almost all the conventions that relate to human rights and intolerance, we're talking about the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. You're talking about racial discrimination. Ghana is a signatory to, among others. Clearly, it means that Ghana, in solidarity with other international community members or nations, should reach out and participate meaningfully in the programs that define the instruments that Ghana has signed on to, which includes participating meaningfully, and I hope there are quite a number of Ghanaians here as well, but we can swell the numbers more by participating more meaningfully in International Holocaust Day. It is something that I'm hoping that the Israeli ambassador and all other meaning persons, you mentioned there is a Israeli parliamentary union here or association. These are matters that we can all work together as stakeholders in this enterprise.
I'd like to thank you very much, Commissioner, for your time and for your reflections. Let me hand back to you at the podium.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Commissioner. Our distinguished audience, please, if any of us have any comments or questions to our panel or Betty, the floor is open for us to indulge or engage.
I think Betty is trying to talk. Betty is trying to say yes.
Okay. Hello, Betty.
Wait 1 minute. Yeah. No, I'm mute. Please help him. Please help him.
She has to, yeah, it's on mute.
Hello, Betty, you can speak.
I would like to address a few words to Your Excellency, the German ambassador, to tell you that I work today before the corona and after the corona I am volunteer at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, which is the most beautiful museum in the country. And I would love, Your Excellency, to host you if you ever come to Jerusalem. But I want to tell you that I meet I meet people from all over the world. I speak a few languages, and I meet a lot of German who come to the museum, and they are the biggest friend of Israel today. And I really admire, recently we had an exhibition about painting stolen during the war uh, from Jewish people, and because the Hitler, you must know that, wanted to make a museum in Berlin. So we had this exhibition of painting who are still looking for people who belong to. And a young man came to me. He was the age of one of my grandson. He came to me and I was explaining him how to get to this exhibition. And he said to me, I explained what to say. And he said to me, I was yesterday at Yad Vashem and I cried. And I looked at him and I said, I will tell you something. My mother and my 2 years old brother died in Auschwitz. And he said, can I hug you? And he came and hugged me. And I see many, many German people who come to Israel, and they are today Israel's best friends. I would love to go to Germany. I haven't been only, I would love to go to Germany because I think Germany is today one of Israel's best friends. That's what I want to tell you. Now, my story is not finished because when I planted a tree for the guichet, I'm going to have a few minutes. I planted a tree near the Shem. The tree is in front of a wagon which was sent by the Poles to Yad Vashem. My tree represents life in front of death. Now, they were supposed to get a medal, and they never got a medal because Mr. Guichet said, I don't want a medal. We love these children. We didn't do that for a medal. So what I did after Miss Frederick did what he did, I called Yad Vashem. This is last year, a few months ago. And I said to Yad Vashem, look, I would like now to have a medal. So with the computer, they they saw yes, there was a tree planted in Yad Vashem, but no medal. I said, I now would like to have a medal. So they said to me, you cannot have a medal, it has to be somebody from their family. So Frédéric Pélisson looked, and with his talent, he found a great nephew of Josephine Guicher. He wrote a letter to Yad Vashem, and Yad Vashem, now there is a delegate of Yad Vashem in France. He has now the medal. I was supposed to go there last year, and now because when you must have heard about Isieux, where 45 children were taken to Auschwitz, Barbie, the butcher of Lyon, came to look for us, knocked at every door, nobody talked. So now what I want to do now, and I was supposed to do it last year, but we had this COVID, so I couldn't go. I had a ticket to go to France, I couldn't go. So I hope the 5th of August, Frederick already sent me an invitation. I hope the 5th of August will be finished with this terrible COVID. I want to go to France to do that in my village, have a medal, and put the medal in a little window in the mairie of the village to say thank you to the guichet, but also thank you to the village, that all the generation who would come would see that in this village what happened in this. And it happened in many villages in France, that a lot of people help Jewish children and Jews around France. In France, educated people work with the Nazi, but poor people in the villages, poor people help children and help Jews in especially in the Alps, in the south of France. Many people, it happened a lot. So my story, I want my story to say, because the people who were in the camp, they are dying, and they died. I was a child during the Shoah, and I'm still here with optimism and health. I hope I touch wood to keep the story for many years because that it doesn't never happen again. And because the denial is happening in the world now. People deny that there was a Shoah, and it must never. This must stay. And people like me, I hope, will continue to tell the story. That's it.
Thank you very much. And we are very grateful to hear your story today in Ghana. Please,
Okay.
there was a hand up.
You're all invited to come to the Israel Museum. I will.
Yes, we will be there.
Thank you. I will be your host.
Yeah, yes.
Someone's asking a question. Hello, does it work?
Let's give him this microphone maybe.
Maybe now? It's working? Yeah, good. Good evening, everybody. My name is Gunnar. I'm the ambassador of Norway, and I just wanted, first of all, to say thank you to Betty, because I've had myself a life-changing experience when I was a contact person traveling with my daughter's 8th grade high school to Ravensbrück on Sachsenhausen and visited the camp, and I saw the impact together with what we called a time witness. That was a Norwegian woman who had survived the camps, and she had survived, and she spent her time and life telling young people about the experience, visiting camps together with young people so that they could see for themselves. They could see the rooms filled with boots, shoes, rooms filled with hair, things that you can't imagine, but which tells you and put a visual to the stories. So thank you very much, Betty, for telling your story, and thank you very much to the embassies of Israel and Germany for organizing this extremely important evening. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Please, any other person? All right, so without any further questions and any further comments, Betty would like to say a very big thank you to you on behalf of Her Excellency. Shani Cooper, Ambassador Rightous, we want to say a very big thank you for joining us this evening all the way from Jerusalem. We are very grateful for the insights you've shared with us this evening, and we wish you all the best. We'll be in touch again, and so thank you very much, Betty. And to bring our evening to a close, please, I would like to call upon Reverend Dr. John Gatti. He's the chairman of the Israel-Ghana Friendship Association, to just give us a brief closing remarks.
Good evening. And Your Excellency, Israeli Ambassador to Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, events like this should create in us a resolve to never again let this happen to any group of human beings. We have been reminded of what happened some years back. As a matter of fact, it was a systematic thing that went on between 1941 and 45. So it wasn't just one day affair or 1 year thing. It went on as the world looked on. And but today, we all gather here as friends of Israel, and we want to challenge ourselves to be the light in the darkness, and to reflect on the darker side of humanity, to let us know that human beings can be cruel to one another. And so our resolve not to let this happen again is very, very important. And I wish to add my voice to that of Ambassador Shani Cooper to call on our government to find place or space in its crowded programs and activities to spare a moment to reflect on the unfortunate happenings of the Holocaust, so that the Ghanaian consciousness will also be awakened. And as our senior brother mentioned, these are all human rights issues. And so our government should raise this awareness and make time to join in this commemoration. One thing I would also want to say as the chairman of the Ghana-Israeli Friendship Association is to call on all our religious leaders to stand with the nation of Israel and also create awareness in our various church commemorations. Undoubtedly, as Christians, we share a common faith heritage with the Jews. And so standing with them in times like this is it should be a normal thing, because their pain should be our pain. And in this regard, I would also want to call on all our Bible schools, our theological seminaries, to include a study on the history of the Jews, not just from the Bible, the biblical perspective, but also from the secular, historical and political perspective, so that some of these things will be clear to us. It's a never to be forgotten event, and we must find a place to couch it in our curriculum. And on behalf of the Ghana Israel Friendship Association, we want to pledge our full support for the nation and the people of Israel in their cause. And we jointly declare that never again should this happen to humanity. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dr. Gatti. Your Excellencies, all protocols duly observed again. Thank you all for joining us this evening to mark the 2021 International Holocaust Remembrance Day in Ghana. Good evening, and we are very grateful for coming. Thank you.
What happened to that sound?
Yeah,
It went by itself.
no, it's from impression. It goes
So she used us something, right? It sounded the very new frequency. It sounded like a okay, gentlemen, you survived.